Welcome to Media Melanie TV. Today I'm back to talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3, Episode 10, called Last Year. This is the penultimate episode of the entire series. Next week, we're going to get episode 11, and it is going to wrap everything up. And by the way, next week, I will be here with a live stream at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. I will be joined by Gina the Latina, who is a San Diego radio personality, and she loves this show. So I'm really excited to talk about that next week. But in terms of this episode, first of all, I'm excited that we actually technically got 2 holiday episodes within one season. Of course, last Christmas, where Conrad and Belly spent that secretive time together at Cousins. And then this episode where we saw Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's unfold both back in the United States and in Paris. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people for episode 9 thought this is just filler. We don't need this. But for me, and maybe just because I haven't read the books before, I thought episode 9 and this episode have actually done a really great job table setting for the series finale. We needed some transition episodes to get out of the wedding story and into dealing with all of the fallout, the emotional journey of all these characters, and to get them to a good place where we can wrap things up and feel authentic and natural about it. Now, that said, I assume we're still going to get a little bit of this present day stuff in the finale, but I'm also hoping by the end we get a time jump and we can wrap everything up nicely in a bow. I am a sucker for a bow ending, which means everything wrapped up, tied up very nicely, and getting closure. And I'm hoping that we do that. And again, I did not read the book. I've heard that Jenny Han does have a different ending here for the show. So I'm curious if it is going to be satisfying for both book readers and non-book readers alike. But either way, it's been a really fun journey. And getting into this episode, there were quite a bit of high points for me. First of all, one of the most important things is every time Susanna's name is mentioned, and then particularly when we had the Fisher brothers at her spot at the cemetery, I can't help but tear up. Actual tears come to my eyes almost every time they mention her. When Laurel reminded Belly that this was the anniversary of her death. And then again, having the brothers there and reconciling at Susanna's grave just gave me goosebumps. It gave me all the feels. And I like that they were finally able to have this conversation. And even though Jer told Conrad he's never going to be okay with it, also, don't waste this chance. And I mean, Jeremiah basically admitted Conrad and Belly have had this force field connection, and he never really stood a chance, but he did want to hold on to her as long as possible. And I like that Belly is actually reaching out to Jer. Jer was her best friend for a long time, so they're reestablishing communication, whereas Conrad has been sending all of these international care packages, and Belly's like, oh no, these letters are just like regular nothing notes, nothing to see here when Taylor found out. But it took Belly quite some time to even respond to Conrad in that postcard. And by the way, when Conrad pulled that postcard out of his wallet and Agnes is like, you keep it in your wallet. Same, Agnes. I am such a sucker for Conrad. There is nothing I want more than for these two to be together. And also, now that Jer said that he kept a promise to Susanna as well to not let anything get in between him and Conrad had kept the promise in order to take care of Jer and protect him. So they both acknowledged that they maybe didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and the 5-year anniversary of Susanna's death was actually the perfect time for them to come back together. And it took a while. We did see the holidays, and Jer couldn't even get out of his Jeep. Laurel is just like the middle person for the two brothers who, I mean, Susanna's gone. Now Laurel's the closest thing they have to a mother. So she went out to the Jeep, she took the carrot, she took the presents, and she's not really been prodding either boy in any direction. She is there as a support system. She tells Conrad straight up, hey, like, you're going to have to be the one to risk talking to Belly. And, you know, she told Jeremiah, Belly wants to hear from you. So I've really appreciated that Laurel has been such a support system for everybody. She had her stumbles there, of course, with the wedding, and I mean, we all kind of know why. But now she's even being super supportive of Belly being in Paris, who now wants to stay for another year. She is getting a fabulous apartment, and like Conrad called her in the letters, Paris Belly. By the way, I just thought that was so cute. And then sending the Sour Patch Kids. But I actually like seeing Belly living a life separate. At the beginning of this episode, it was only 3 months in. She was struggling with the French, not exactly loving her roommates, making this stuffing that kind of smelled like old fish, apparently, according to her French roommates. But even in this short span of time, she's come a long way. And I do think a lot of that has to do with Benito. Like Taylor said when she came to visit for New Year's, maybe it's a sign that talking to both of the brothers or having contact from both of the Fisher brothers on the last day of the year is a sign to move into your new era. And Belly took that to heart, ended up kissing Benito at the party, and now they're involved. And she's the one who's saying, hey, look, first of all, she doesn't want to hurt anybody else. Second of all, Benito is very clearly into Belly. Apparently, he knows the deal that this is just, sort of a filler era for Belly. But the fact that he's inviting her to his grandmother's birthday party in Mexico and that she makes the best chilaquiles ever, I think Benito is great. I love that Belly's having this experience, but I think we all know Benito is not endgame here and Conrad is. By the way, when the two brothers were having that conversation and Conrad was like, look, you can't just take a person. She is not an object to be owned. I loved hearing that from Conrad because I have felt throughout a lot of this. And, admittedly, I was Team Jeremiah earlier on in the series, but I have not liked the way that Jeremiah has treated Belly. And yeah, there are some extenuating circumstances, him finding out about Christmas and then the Cabo thing, but still doesn't make it right in my book. I also like that Jer is sort of trying to find his own way. He didn't take the job with Adam. Adam, of course, got very upset that Jer has been hiding the fact he has not actually been at Finch attending classes. Hey, thanks, Redbird, for that. But now he's got a job in a restaurant. Like Denise said, you're pretty, you can cook, you're coming with me to my family Christmas, since he couldn't end up going to his. But Jer is making progress. Now, I'm not saying we have to pair all these characters off. I mean, at one point, I wouldn't have minded seeing some Agnes and Conrad, but also Agnes has been one of the only friends and support systems that Conrad has had, which I think has been really great for him. And now Jer is staying with Denise. He stopped the couch surfing at Steven's. And by the way, Steven and Taylor, so cute. I'm so glad that they are moving forward and ending up together. But Jer is slowly but surely finding his way. He's basically this glorified busboy, like he says, but he's also like, you know what? You've got to start somewhere. And I appreciated that Jer confronted Adam, who obviously is not very happy with Jer. Adam ended up cutting him off. But at the same time, Jer's like, hey, look, you blame me for calling off the wedding. You think I'm a moron for having to go to college for extra. And I mean, hey, a little bit same, read the course catalog and figure out the requirements. But this is actually now forcing Jer to move on and do something else. And we're seeing a lot of that too. Steven decided to quit Adam's job. He found out that they were not getting the capital they wanted for he and Denise's business from one of Adam's friends. But I like the way that they parted ways and Adam said, no hard feelings, and kind of gave him a smile and a handshake. So I like that Adam is being supportive. By the way, I also liked we did not have to see Kaylee at all in this episode. We did get a mention that she's with her family for the holidays and Adam is somewhere else. So I'm actually glad we didn't get to see her, and hopefully this means a gradual tapering off of Kaylee, so that way we're not going to have to see an Adam and Kaylee endgame in the finale. All right, before I get more into this review of The Summer I Turned Pretty, the penultimate episode of the entire series, be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. I have been so grateful for everybody here watching with me along this Summer I Turned Pretty final season journey, but I've also got some other great shows coming up on my coverage radar. Spooky season is coming, so I've got a mystery at hand here with Only Murders in the Building Season 5, going to be covering It, Welcome to Derry, and The Telemasca, which both drop in October. Along with that, I've got Fallout on my radar, but I'm also wondering, what other shows are you guys watching? What would you want to see me talk about? I'm thinking of trying covering Gen V. I'm getting through season 1 right now. I never watched The Boys, but I'm enjoying Gen V so far. So Be sure to stick with me for all the TV talk, and thanks to everybody who already has. I'm working on getting to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year and really want to be a full-time TV content creator. So thank you for being here, but let's get back into this review. The needle drops. Taylor Swift coming through. Again, we got 2 Taylor Swift needle drops in this episode, and every single time I hear one of her songs, I just could not be happier. We got I Can Do It with a Broken Heart and The One, perfectly placed as always. But my actual favorite needle drop from this episode was the Bleachers song. I love Bleachers. Jack Antonoff is actually one of Taylor Swift's producers, so I'm imagining she was like, hey, Jack, let's get one of your songs in here too. And he's like, okay, cool, Taylor. So they did, and it worked perfectly. By the way, if you haven't listened to Bleachers music, I am obsessed. I've seen them in concert before, and if you ever have a chance, check them out live. We also had some Christmas music, some French music, and I mentioned before, I kind of like when shows infuse international music that maybe we're not familiar with. The White Lotus was actually one of the most recent shows to do that with these like Thai bangers, and I liked the French music here as well. And because it was Christmas, we also got some holiday vibes. Brenda Lee rocking around the Christmas tree, some French music for the holidays as well. We heard Murder on the Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and I love that song. I think it was perfectly placed for the New Year's party. We heard Lisa singing Moonlit Floor, but this episode ended with Harry Styles' Sign of the Times, and I love that song. I love Harry Styles. The music in this entire season and really series as a whole has been awesome, and they keep updating the official soundtrack. So if you're not listening to it and you want to keep the Summer I Turned Pretty vibes going, highly recommend. All right, so my biggest highs, I think, from this episode, I enjoyed seeing Paris Belly coming out of her shell, getting to know herself. I think it's great. I don't think it's filler. I think it's a very important part of her character journey, and we need to see all of this unfold. So that way, when she does end up wherever she ends up, hopefully with Conrad, we are all very satisfied with it and feel like, you know what? Belly went out, found herself, lived her own life, and now she is ready to settle down. And this is actually a really sad one, but it was kind of a high just because it really struck an emotional chord with me. When Jeremiah said to Denise, you know, it's actually harder losing Belly because she's still here. Even with having lost my mom, at least she's gone. And I know for a fact that there's no getting her back, and you have to kind of live with that. And it's nice that Denise is really helping Jeremiah move through this grief cycle, saying, look, you just got to acknowledge it. You got to deal with it. And don't let this hold anything over you. This is not the power over you. You can be the power over yourself. But that line was actually very interesting because sometimes it is actually harder to grieve a living loss than it is of somebody who actually leaves the earth. I thought it was actually funny when Conrad said the irony in Taylor Jewel being the only one to text me. And poor Conrad, it is good that he has Agnes. But when he was talking to Steven at Christmas, he's like, look, I don't even know how to act around you guys. And Steven was like, I don't even know how we're supposed to act around you. And Conrad is truly trying his best. He did not intentionally come in and railroad his brother's wedding. This has been something that's been going on forever. We got another little Belly flashback, so cute by the way, when Laurel and Susanna are talking about taking a holiday for the summer and, hey, let's go to Italy. Let's swim in the sea every day. And little Belly is like, well, I don't want to go there. I want to swim in the sea here with you guys and ... people, of course, referring to Conrad. I mean, these two are completely endgame, and I am ready with tissues and ready to feel all the goosebumps and every single feel in the next episode when hopefully Belly and Conrad are ending up together once and for all. And again, just coming back to Denise, I've really liked her presence on this show. She's a great mid character. We don't see too much of her. We don't see too little of her. I like that she didn't work out with Steven and that she's just very brutally honest and herself and calling out Jer wearing his sad pants. I love that. And like I said with Agnes, same thing. It's nice each of these brothers has sort of another female to lean on. And yeah, Jer's got Steven, of course, as well. But also Jer hooking up with Steven's colleagues. And then obviously that caused a little bit of drama at the Friendsgiving. But again, like Jeremiah is just trying to get over it. Who could actually blame him? But also, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Okay, in terms of lows, now on one side of the coin, I do think Paris Belly is an important story to be told, but I did also feel at times it was maybe a little bit redundant. Okay, we get it. You're struggling with the language, you're struggling with your roommates, and yeah, it all worked out. She got this great apartment. But also, I mean, what are the odds of all of this just seamlessly falling into place for Belly, who shows up in Paris without the place in the program that she wanted? But now that she is getting her footing, which again is a whole part of the reason why we're seeing all the Paris content in general, which may not be the most compelling, but it's also forcing Belly to grow up and look at other opportunities that she wouldn't have even considered before if she had just stayed home after the wedding got called off. And Benito, yes, he is very cute, but he is essentially filler. I think he's a necessary part of this chapter in Belly's life in order to feel like she did experience other things. So that way, when she does settle down with Conrad, she's going to feel confident that she's lived other experiences outside of the whole Fisher brother sphere. And I think Benito's cute. I thought the Christmas Eve motorcycle moped scene was cute when she asked him to drive, and him just even showing up there in general. I mean, he's going to be the next one heartbroken, but because we don't have this long-standing connection with him, like, that's fine, no big deal, nothing to see here. And of course, breakups suck, but you know what? I'm sure our friend Benito will be just fine. I've also got to say, I truly enjoyed Taylor coming to Paris, and it didn't feel too forced or contrived. It was actually nice hearing that Lucinda had paid her back half the money. Taylor's out there trying all these outfits on in her full-on Paris era, and I loved that for her. And something I also love is Steven as a partner and how supportive he was when he's like, hey, you gotta go, you gotta do this. That is the kind of partner we all need in our lives. Somebody who is going to be supportive of you going on that trip or going somewhere with whoever, just someone that supports every endeavor that you take in your life, because that's what partners and loved ones are meant to do. Anybody who's trying to hold you back, even if it's in a very subtle way, that is not true love. And I've got to say, I have fully come around on the Steven and Taylor. I love seeing them together, and I'm happy that they're moving in together. And now they've both had some experiences outside of each other, like not a ton, but I think enough to actually substantiate for both of them that yes, they are also meant to be together. And just the thought of having Taylor and Steven and Belly and Conrad and then Jer and I don't know, maybe Denise at some point, all happy at a future holiday, sitting around the same table and getting along, like that is where I want to end up. Just everything about the Conrad stuff, though. Like, this is a love story, baby. Just say yes. The letters, even though Belly is not responding, he keeps on writing her. That just shows how much he cares. He is not going to give up on her, and he's got another chance. So why would he? And now that Jer sort of gives his blessing, Conrad is on his way to Paris, baby. He changes his ticket from Brussels to stop in Paris. Perfect timing for her birthday. Also, very coincidental. He just happens to get offered this conference in Brussels, which, as Agnes points out, is only an hour and a half ride from Paris. I can't wait for him to show up. But I also don't want to see like this big push and pull between Conrad and Benito. We don't need another love triangle. We just need Belly and Conrad to lock eyes and realize, okay, this is forever. Belly can say, sorry about it, Benito. I told you this was just like a filler phase or whatever. And then Belly and Conrad fly back home together. Or, I mean, who knows? Maybe Conrad can do some other medical things in Europe and they can end up staying together. Or let's say he does go back to California. Maybe Belly stays in Paris for the next full year, and then they find their way back together and they sort of communicate with love letters the whole time. That would also be very sweet. Or, I mean, I guess there is the possibility, since Belly has the apartment, maybe Conrad would stay. I don't know. What do you guys think that we are going to see here in the finale? But seriously, when Conrad sent Junior Mint and the necklace and the Sour Patch Kids, I just love Conrad. I love how quiet and brooding he is. And of course, I mean, at the heart of it, yeah, he's in love with the same girl that his brother's been in love with, but it's been a lifelong thing. It's not like Conrad just intentionally was the snake in the grass that Jeremiah said. He was trying his hardest not to get with Belly, but they kept having these moments that reminded both of them, like, hey, we are meant to be together. I mean, the peaches, the bathtub scene, Christmas. Are you even kidding me? And the fact that Conrad keeps that Polaroid of her in a drawer and that he's always calling Laurel. I mean, yeah, she's obviously a great substitute for Susanna, who's no longer with them. She's a pseudo mom, and I love that she is there for the boys. But it's just so ironic that she's talking to both Jer and Conrad about Belly, and she's really not getting in the middle. She's going to let this problem work itself out, which is exactly what she should be doing, because we don't need anybody else's hands in this. We need this to come to a very natural conclusion where, yeah, Belly and Conrad end up together because it is the right thing and there's no external forces either pushing them together or pulling them apart. But what I've really liked to see with Conrad's progression is slowly starting to actually come out of isolation now and come home for Christmas and actually try. I mean, he was even trying to avoid Jer at Susanna's grave. He's really trying his best to fulfill some self-happiness and also get back some of the relationships of the people that he's lost because of this whole situation. Another line I actually thought really funny was when Steven asked Conrad if he had a notes app with bullet points about talking to Jeremiah. And he's like, yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a good list? Right on, bro. Anytime I feel like I need to work through something or feel better when I'm feeling anxious, making a list is always the way to go. So I feel that so hard. And I also love that Steven knows Conrad enough to know that you better believe he's got that note going. And I've got to say, it almost seems like maybe everybody is going to be getting some kind of a happy ending in the finale. And if anybody is not, I've been saying, okay, we don't need Adam to get a happy ending. We don't need to see him and Kaylee together. Somebody can stay unpaired in the finale. But Laurel and John, I don't know. I think that's really cute too. But they are also sort of maybe falling into old ways when he's looking for the Pepsid in the cabinet saying he's got heartburn all day. And then Laurel's like, yeah, I mean, it's right there in the cabinet, bro. And of course, then she finds it. Actually, for a moment, I thought, oh no, is John having some sort of like heart issue? I know heartburn can be a precursor to a heart attack. So I'm hoping like Belly's dad doesn't die and there's another tragic thing, because we don't need another one of these parents gone. And it's probably nothing. It's maybe more to show that maybe they won't end up back together. Maybe Laurel and John will end up just kind of friendly and happy apart, because there are things that obviously probably happened in their marriage that drove them both crazy. So they either need to acknowledge these things and move and get on with them, or Laurel needs to be like, you know what? I don't want to be the person that always has to find everything in the household. Like, why is that always me? So what do you guys think? Will we see Laurel and John together in the finale or not? So, questions moving into the series finale. At the end of this episode, Belly was ready for a change and looked like she's getting her hair cut. Are we going to see her with a very short, new, stylish haircut? Is Conrad going to show up at the dinner? Is Conrad going to hate her haircut and be like, oh, sorry, I just can't like be with a girl with short hair? I highly doubt that. But I'm interested to see the dynamic between Conrad and Belly and Benito, and exactly how this surprise goes down, because obviously Belly is not expecting Conrad to be there, but at the same time, she's not pushing him away either, because obviously she wrote him the postcard with her new address, so she obviously doesn't mind hearing from him that much, right? And really the biggest question of all, will we be getting a time jump happy ending that wraps everything up nicely in the bow that I am hoping that we get, or will they sort of leave something open to interpretation? Even if they leave something open, at least I want to know Belly and Conrad are together and happy. For me, that is the most important point of closure that I'm gonna need from the finale, so fingers crossed on that. But what about you guys? What do you want to see wrapped up in the final episode, episode 11, which I would imagine, if we're going by the titles, is gonna be called Last Love. This season opened up with Belly talking about first loves and last loves, and Conrad was her first love. Conrad could potentially be her last love. And as a hopelessly romantic person, I love every single second of that. And just the way they've used these last two episodes to really set the table for the finale, the force field connection of Belly and Conrad, now Jeremiah and Conrad with the hug felt around the television world, finally reconciling, and Jer giving Conrad permission, and the slow build with the letter writing versus Conrad constantly blowing up her phone or something like that. I think this feels like a very authentic and logical way to approach this last road into the final episode of the series. So, I want you guys to drop all your thoughts down in the comments, your predictions. What do you want to see happen? What are some things that you don't want to see happen? And again, I will be back with a live stream next week, so feel free to join in the comments, and that way we can sort of address everything, go over it together, and hopefully all gain a little bit of closure with the series. And again, I didn't read the books, don't know how the book ends, but I'm very excited to see how the show ends. So please go ahead and like this video, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button so I can continue on my path to hopefully get 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And again, thank you to everybody who has stuck with me for this. I've also set up a new Patreon with some fun new tiers and exclusive content, and I've got some really cute merch in my shop. Those links are down below, so feel free to check them out, and I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.